meeting to order at whatever time it is, 6:31. Okay, first thing, just to announce the meeting is recorded. People will be asked to identify themselves when they're let in from the waiting room. Any questions should be submitted to the host. And attendees not adhering to the guidelines could be put on hold or removed from the meeting. Okay, first thing, we'd like to welcome Pat Driscoll from the planning board as our newest planning board representative. Welcome, Pat. Pat comes with a wealth of knowledge on things. I'm sure he'll be a great asset to our committee. Next year's announcement is, I believe it's still pending. There's $20 million from state surplus that has been earmarked for CPA funding to be divided up to the cities and towns. However, the governor hasn't signed it. So if you want to call your representatives or senator and get them to urge the governor to sign that bill. Last I heard, it hadn't been signed. Carlton might have an update on that.
I don't have anything.
Okay, so that's where it still sits for the governor not signing it. So I suggest just contacting your rep or a senator and ask them to urge the governor to sign. Okay, next, public comments. Anybody from the public? We have one person that's an iPhone with no name. Barbara, is that you?
It's Eileen Heine.
Okay, thank you. So no public comments. We have approval of minutes for August 24th that Josh sent out.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none. Josh, roll call vote.
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Patrick,
I'll abstain.
Pat.
I wasn't here. I'll abstain.
and Maureen.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, great. Thank you. Review of financial reports. Josh sent those out separately. There are a couple of typos on it that Carlton questioned today, the finance department, and they said it was typos and they're correcting that. Carlton, do you want to just say you're more familiar with the question you asked that Laurie had answered?
I had identified some expenses here that I didn't understand. And if we go to the balance sheet shows basically what we have in our accounts. And as we know, the municipal accounting money that's actually in a fund balance shows as a negative in my experience with the spreadsheet. So that's in parentheses in red. So that's basically positive money. And what they're saying there is that in the upper part of that, we have had, to date, we've had substantial amount of, we have cash on hand of cash on hand of $3,599.46. $3,599,846. And then it also says what we've gotten in terms of other money from arrears, that kind of thing. And the 2023 real estate tax has been about $208,000. There are some internal modifications in terms of liability that has to be put in there. And then down below, at the fund balances, is how much money we have in each of our major accounts. For example, the CPA reserve for continuing appropriation, is $727,290. And we have an undesignated fund balance of $1,278,576. And then we have some fund balances, for example, the CPA reserve for expenses is at $26,000. The open space reserve is $29,627. The historic preservation account has $229,000 and change. And then the balance for community housing is $309,000 available. So that
Right.
means that we have a fund total of $3,599, $3,599,846 that is in the bank.
Wait, thank you, Carlton, but what was the question you had for Laurie? Something she said was a typo. It was an
Oh,
EOR.
it's on the Town of Bridgewater CPA reporting, the second page. It says EOY, expense to budget, and that should be August 31st now. It was just a typo, has nothing to do with the
Okay.
dollar amounts.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And
you
the
can see
other
a
the other
couple-
sheet that's there, the other two sheets that are there basically are one that shows how much revenue against our budget has come in. And the lower part is basically expense budget to actual. So what did we budget and what have we spent? And I won't get into a lot of it, but you'll see administrative expenses. There's $1,872 that have been spent against our admin account there. And in another place down here at the bottom, it says Styles and Hard Improvement. We voted $1.3 million. And the town has spent $812 towards a wetlands delineation in that project.
Good, thank you. Any questions on the expense reports that were sent out? Okay.
I will say that I will add that we've had some communications, as Gina indicated today, with the finance department. And she and I are set up for a meeting with the finance department, Lori and the chair, Tony, to go over some of the communications issues, that kind of thing, regarding how the projects are carried over, et cetera. And that will be next Wednesday, and we'll get back to you all. Anybody that wants to come up until quorum is welcome to do that.
And thank you. For those of you that don't know, Carlton mentioned Tony. That's Tony Salmonte, who is the finance director for the town. Okay, next, DOI reports to the Department of Revenue. The state requires us to file three reports, CP1, CP2, and CP3. That's just what they call their reports. It's just a recap of all income and expenses, any carryovers, and the finance department always files those for us if they filed them. And I believe copies might have been sent out to this committee last month, just to show that it was being sent, but that's completed.
And I will add that we have asked, and Gina did review those forms this year.
Correct. Yeah, they send them to me before they file them. Okay, moving on to old business. Applications received. I'm gonna just take it out of order. I don't know if we need a vote for that to do the townhouse first.
Yeah, Gina, let's just say the town manager has asked that the Summer Street property be delayed, not to be voted on tonight. Is that correct?
Thank you. Correct.
So
He's asked that we hold off. There was
he's
just,
still,
they needed to revise some of their figures for the application. So because the town had already appropriated funds too, so it changed the amount that they're requesting from community preservation. So he couldn't attend the meeting tonight, and he has asked that we hold it off till October. Okay, the townhouse trash, did you get that email from Michael this afternoon?
Did you want me to put that on screen?
Yeah, could you
Please.
please?
Yep, give me just a moment.
Okay, well, Josh is doing that. Go back to my Zoom here. We have an application on hand that went out with Josh's packet for the roof at the town hall, also known as the townhouse. The original application was for 20,000 because the project, I believe, is 215,000. There's $175,000 grant from Mass Historic. Plus Mass Historic would give another 20,000 if they could match it. So the town manager's original application said for 20,000. Pricing came in a lot higher, so he sent a letter this afternoon that showed why in the letter. So he's increasing from 20,000 to 82,500.
Gina, I would like to interrupt for a second, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The original 20,000 was a match for an increase in the award that Mass Historic had given the town with respect to the townhouse roof restoration repair. That specifically was intended to use and cover some of the cost for the restoration of the hidden gutters on the building. So just so everybody's clear, it wasn't repair, it was actually restoration of the gutters on the building back to historic conditions.
Thank you.
And then what Gina's talking about is that they did get word from MHC, Mass Historic, that they approved 2 of the alternatives that were in fact intended. The architect that's doing the work had put in 3 alternatives in terms of things they could add to the building roof repair restoration. And that's what's on your screen now, is that it's showing the totals underneath this particular piece. Alternative 1, which is called roof restoration, and alternative 2, that's the rear pediment. There are restoration needs on the rear pediment. That's that little jut out from the back of the building that I think probably was put in to put bathrooms and accessibility in play. The insulation Mass Historic is insisting that, since it's proposed that we insulate the building, that in fact the town and would do that as part of the procurement. So that's why the added amount of money, which is basically, like Gina said, $82,500 from the letter. I don't know if you want to show the actual letter, Gina, or not.
Yes, Josh, could you show the letter too? Please.
Yep, just a moment.
And while you're doing that, the townhouse roof is part of the reuse elements of the building. That's the first thing that was identified that we needed to do, was to in fact repair, restore, fix the roof of the building, since it was in dire shape and potentially could lead to leakages. So here's the letter from Michael that came in today. I just saw it myself 30 minutes ago. It's, as we noted, that was recommended that we ask for funding from the town council in the amount of 20,000. That was the match that we talked about. The letter also states that they are requiring, it sounds like, one alternative component of the project to be included in the base bid. He doesn't say which one it is. And we did receive the cost estimate from the designer that actually came out to be, if all the alternatives, it was like 295,000, and the town is short money. Michael indicates that they have secured through town council, through the grant money, 175,000, and the 20,000 pending local match. So that adds another 40,000 if we vote that tonight. And then there's some new construction costs at $278,000. And he indicates the shortfall on the project is $82,497. He's rounding the numbers up like we do when we go to CVS and we ask, they want to round up the change for donations to 82,500. So it's for the match and for some additional work on the building. Is there any, I'm going to ask if there's any questions because I don't want to belabor it too much.
Okay, any questions on what Carlton just explained? Okay, hearing none. You can keep going, please.
So I guess the question is, what do we want to do about this 20,000 plus extra money that the town's requesting? Remembering that it's a town building, it's in dire needs of work. The insulation piece was a bit of a surprise to me. As Energy Committee Chair, I have been working for 2 weeks for the town to actually, I'd gotten wind of this insulation piece that was gone forward, and I had been asking the town to apply for Green Communities money to install the insulation, which is what Green Communities cover. There is a bit of a bet right now. It's not clear because the building's unoccupied that the Green Communities would be favorable towards that. But I do have communications from the coordinator for Green Communities that suggest that it's possible we could do that since it's a passive roof repair, insulation piece. So I had hoped that the town would actually apply by October 7th at 5 p.m. for insulation repair, and I have actually indicated I would be happy to write the grant. But that said, the town manager has made the decision to include it here. It's a questionable, in my mind, it's questionable as to whether or not it meets CPA requirements for restoration. There probably never was insulation, but it is something Mass Historic is requiring us to do. And there's lots of good reasons for that. It protects the buildings in many different ways. I'll leave it at that.
Jennifer, do you have any experience or any knowledge about insulation being a CPC expenditure?
I would say installation on its own is not an allowed expenditure, but if the Mass Historic Commission is requiring it or requesting it, it would be eligible under the historic bucket.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's what I was thinking too. Okay, great. Okay, and I think Carlton had a motion for this.
Let's see if any. Let's
more
make sure everybody's
discussion?
clear as to what's going on.
I'm clear as to what's going on.
Thank you.
There's not been an application for certificate of appropriateness yet to the Historic District Commission for the work on the gutters. And that would have to be presented to the Historic District Commission. Of course, I know we're nowhere near completion. We're just beginning, but I would like the minutes to reflect that the Historic District Commission would require an application for a certificate of appropriateness for any work done on the gutters or on the pediment restoration at the rear of the building.
Okay, good. Thank you, Bill. Okay, anybody else questions, or is everybody set and understands what was described tonight and why the change in funding from what was originally requested on the application?
I mean, I just want to say that I don't think we should jeopardize the money and all the restoration that has been done on the building by neglecting the roof. So I'm certainly in support of this. I mean, we spent upwards of $1 million to restore the townhouse, and so now we have to address the concerns of the roof because the whole building could be ruined. if the roof is faulty.
Correct. Good point.
So
The
I would,
reason-
if there's no other, I would offer a motion but Josh, if I could share my screen. I spent the last 30 minutes before this meeting trying to figure this out, so.
Yeah, you're all set to share.
Okay, share screen. And then I want to go to, so I'd like to offer a motion that to recommend $82,500 for the townhouse roof project taken from account 32-4200 Historic Preservation Reserve, of which 20,000 is to match MHC's additional grant for restoration of the historic hidden gutter, 46,800 for roof insulation, and $15,700 for the rear pediment restoration, all contingent on the town applying for and receiving Green Community Grant money for the roof insulation, or the town council appropriating $46,800 from the capital improvement account for the insulation. That's my offered motion.
Okay, Count Knight, do we have a second before
I'll second the motion, Harry.
Okay, thank you, Harry. Okay, discussion. I just have a question. I know Carlton and I, it's 6 o'clock when I get home, we were quickly going over all these numbers. So if it's contingent, okay, so your motion is for the whole 82,500 that includes the insulation. But it says contingent upon the town applying or the town council appropriating more money. So would the town council still have to appropriate more? Okay, say the town applies for the green energy, doesn't get it. Okay, just hit this out just to make sure I got this right.
The
Okay,
intent of that, the intent of that is to make sure we identify exactly what the town community preservation is recommending, and if the town council votes it, what they would be voting on.
Okay,
That's number one. Number two, I had to adjust one of the numbers, what's alternative two, from 18,000 down to 15,000 to match the town manager's 82,500. And the other reason is I want to town council to be aware that this is what we're recommending, but we also, at this point, and if you all vote for this, are asking the town council to consider, should the town not apply for green communities money, that the town council actually step up to the plate and provide an additional 48,000 and change for the insulation, because I do not believe insulation is a historic preservation element.
okay, that, I guess that's my question, because that 48,000 was included, I believe, in your motion.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so we're saying it's contingent upon either the green energy or the town council appropriating 48,000. Do I have that right?
That is one interpretation, yes.
Okay, so if the motion includes it, that we will fund it, can I ask just for a friendly amendment to that? That, and it would have to be you and Harry for the motion and the second, that it says if we find that the insulation is not a CPA funded expense, then the town council appropriate the rest of the money.
My only objection to that would be if we find, I don't believe anybody's going to come back other than this committee to say whether or not it is or is not.
But
I would
our
have to pursue.
our consultant has just told us that since it was recommended or required by the Mass Historical Commission, that it is allowable as a CPC expenditure. So I'm a little bit confused.
Well, I would say that that's an opinion. I don't know. That is a valid opinion, but I don't know if it really holds water.
Right, so we have two opinions that, yes, it is, and if MHC requires it, then yes, it is a valid expense, and the other view is, no, it's not. So it's two opinions that we need to get an answer on. So my thought is that we included, take your motion the way it is, but just add in that if it's not, because you have itemized and you say the installation, and if the installation is found not to be eligible for CPA funds, then the town council needs to come up with the rest of the money.
I hear that, and that could be part of the transmittal letter if we should vote this. But I think we can recommend to the town council, town manager wants us to go before the town council for the first reading in 2 weeks.
Correct.
Okay, so I think we should move the motion forward. You guys can amend it formally or informally, no, not informally, but formally. But my suggestion is we vote this, and then it will go to the town council, and we can have further deeper discussions with the town council. But to move this forward,
Carlton, I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate the thought you put into it, because as I said, we're like whipping figures back and forth at 6 o'clock. I would just like to be as clear and concise in our motion that way I can say when we do the letter, Josh and I, when we do the letter to the town manager to be included at the council meeting, that we're just as clear and concise as we can be. And I'd add, like you said, we can always add in if it's found not to be a viable CPA expense, then like just add that to the letter. I would like to see it be included in the motion, just to be as clear and concise as we can be for it.
well, then I would offer my own amendment. That basically, I have to go look at it for a minute, that we break this into 2 sentences. Motion to recommend, and it would end after for the rear pediment restoration period. Okay, and then the second one would be something to the effect that any funds, well, you guys can make the suggestion, but I'm willing to make it. I don't like 2-sentence motions, but in this case, I think CPC, I think the other one is CPC recommends something about applying for and receiving green communities, or town council appropriating money for it.
No, we can say is contingent, I thought is contingent upon, as you said, it applying for green communities. And somehow just say that it's the installation
looking
is
for real
a
words,
viable
not somehow.
expense. I'm sorry, go ahead. What was that?
I'm looking for real words here, not speculation. What do we want to say?
Okay, can you put your motion up again? Can you share it?
I'm working on it.
Okay.
Is it there?
Nope. While you're doing that, just letting Pat know if you need to leave, we do have a quorum without you too, so don't feel pressured to.
I'm all right right now.
Okay.
I'm asking for it to share, but it's not.
Josh, is it still shared with Carlton?
Anybody can share right now.
Oh, okay.
Well, Is it showing up? I'm sorry, it's showing up on my screen.
Nope.
Well, I'm
Can you
sorry.
email it to me real quick, Carlton? I can share it.
I can try. Let me.
Okay.
What do people think about this? Two of us are
Right,
talking a lot.
I was just gonna ask that, what are the rest feel? Jennifer, what do you jump into if you have thoughts of the rest of the CPC? Don't everybody talk at once?
I'm not a voting member, so my thoughts don't really matter.
Right, but we like your input too. I value your input, Jennifer. I know you're not a voting member, but you probably have experience too of what goes before the council.
So I just sent it to Josh, so we know.
Okay,
I was a little bit confused about what Carlton's motion actually was, so I would have to either hear it again or see it
okay,
to truly comment on what the actual motion was.
okay, thank you. Yep, Josh was gonna share it. I know it's hard just hearing it too.
So Jennifer, I think it was, I couldn't see, so I think it was you asking the question of what the motion was.
Yes, Carlton.
So it's on the screen right now and it's zooming into so we can see it. But basically, the town manager has requested that we vote on 82,500 for the townhouse roof project.
Mhm.
I've identified the accounts and I've identified what the makeup of the $82,000 is. $20,000 is to match the additional MHC grant, which we won't receive unless we match it. And it's for the historic hidden gutter repair. That was my putting that in, so we're specifically within the bounds of Community Preservation Act historic funding. The $46,800 for roof insulation is the amount of money that the town manager sent to us for putting insulation, which I absolutely want to have happen. And so I put that in there as specific, and then 15,700 is for the rear pediment restoration. Apparently that got left out somehow in the early stuff. And then I had said contingent on the town applying for and receiving green communities. I am happy to have it typed in and said, further, this is my thinking as an amendment, further that the town apply for a green communities grant for the roof insulation, or the town council appropriate $46,800 from the capital improvement account.
Okay, I like
So
that, Carlton.
Well,
I want to make sure Jennifer's clear on what I was saying.
Well, I think I'm clear on what you're saying, but I don't understand why you're saying contingent upon appropriating additional
Right.
money. I don't like if you're granting the money from CPC, why does the council have to appropriate the same amount of money?
Right, that's my question to Jennifer. That's why I'm confused. I would make the suggestion that the word contingent come out and just say further, it is recommended that the town apply for and receive a green communities grant for roof insulation. And if it's found that the insulation is not a viable CPA fund, that the town council appropriate 46,800 from capital.
Okay, so let's, I hear the speak. I think, what's the words? We'll drop contingent, and Josh, if you
Right.
can type, that would be great. If we can drop the word contingent.
What's your intent, Carlton, with this? Don't tell me
What my intent is to not spend community preservation money on something that's not historic preservation.
So is your intent to appropriate vote this money now and then so that it can be put on for first reading, but then in the meantime, do research to see if that money that is eligible costs?
Happy
Is
to
someone
do
gonna
that,
do
yes.
that? Is someone gonna do that? Because how are you gonna know if it's an eligible cost if someone
Well,
doesn't do the
The
research?
first place is we'll reach out to the coalition for any other
So-
information, but my reliance is on the coalition.
So I guess I would just say at the last, after rear pediment restoration, you could just say, um, I would just say something upon like any portion of the project found not to be eligible for CPC funds shall be funded through state or federal grant monies or a town council appropriation, and just leave it at that. I think that
Mhm.
covers what you're looking to do.
I will make that as an amendment.
Okay, Harry, I think that sounds good, Jennifer. I
And then am
will-
I dropping the sentence after
Yeah, I
that?
dropped the rest of that, Josh. Yep.
Right. Right, the word contingent was getting me too, because the vote isn't contingent on that. We're voting to approve it, then if it's found not
Right.
to be an expense. So I think that sounds good.
And
So-
the only question I have on this amendment, which we'll have to vote on, my only discussion on that is how do we determine, where do we accept that it is or is not eligible? I don't want to go to DOR to find out about that.
I would go to the coalition first and see what, because Stuart seems to be up on all this, what's allowable, what's not. So I would say we start with the coalition.
I was gonna say, you've used Stewart's guidance in the past to make decisions, so you could continue at that, down that route. If you want.
Almost everyone.
Yeah, so I mean, you could continue down that route. I'm happy to reach out to him if you want, or if you want to do that, that's fine too.
Okay, we can do that. And I think as part of the letter that goes to the town manager with the motion and the vote, then we can say, just a reminder that the Green Communities has a grant that needs to be applied for before.
So, I'll just give everybody, we're not applying for Green Communities this fall. It's been made, that decision's already been made, because there's multiple projects that we're looking at for the spring. And you can't apply for a Green Communities grant in the spring if you have an open one in the fall. So we don't want to put ourselves in that jeopardy. So we are not applying for a Green Communities grant this fall.
Okay. Okay,
That's
thank you
good
for
news.
that.
I wish the Energy Committee had been told that. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Jennifer. That's why we like having you guys here from the town for input. Thank you. Okay,
So
so
I'll move, I will call the question in terms of the amendment.
sure.
We have to vote on it.
Right.
Well, if we
but-
call the question, we have to call the question and have a vote, and then we vote on the motion. So that's
Right, but-
a two-step process.
Right, but it was
Calling the
amended
question
from,
just shuts down the discussion.
right, but it was amended,
It was amended formally. We
Right.
need to vote on the amendment.
correct.
So let's do that.
Okay, Josh,
And I'll
roll call for the
withdraw the
amendment.
question.
Do I have to second this first?
Yes,
No, the question automatically moves you to vote.
okay. Josh, roll
She-
call?
Gina,
Yes,
Carlton,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Jeff, thank you. Harry,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
Patrick,
I'll abstain.
thank you. The motion was approved.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, now discussion on the amendment. If none, we can jump right to the vote.
We voted on the amendment. We now vote on the motion.
Correct. Okay, no discussion. We can go to the roll call. Josh?
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Harry,
yes,
Maureen,
yes,
Patrick.
Abstain.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you,
Josh, I
guys.
forgot your name for a second. Can you just send me, your accountant, send me that? Just so I can type it up and send it to Michael. We can do the letter
Sure.
tomorrow. Great, thank you. Okay, Central Square Congregational Church for their application is still pending. Okay, moving on.
May I
to-
ask a question of the church members that are here?
Sure.
Does the church intend to go through with the deed restriction?
well, there is I wanted to talk to you about if we were hopefully know that we had a feeling we would be approved for phase 2 and phase 3 of the project from you. It is definitely our intent to go on through with the deed restriction. However, we've had some talk at the church regarding the deed restriction. We just don't feel comfortable putting a restriction on the church for an award of $200,000 for phase 1. If we had, like I said, if we had a feeling that phase 2 and phase 3 would be approved by the town, yes, we do want to go ahead with the deed restriction.
Okay, I know we've asked this before of Gordon, and I don't think he's on tonight, but I'm not sure. How confident you are in the pricing for phases 2 and 3? Gordon has told us before that there'd be no change, but I just had work down on my back hall, and the cost of supplies compared to what it probably would have been before was like an astronomical increase. So I guess my question is, we'd like to know what your amounts are for phases 2 and 3 with increases. I mean, Gordon has told us that those figures are still good, but does the church have the funding to, if the prices have gone way up for wood, for I don't know if labor's gone up, but for supplies, does the church have the funding to cover any overage?
The answer to that would be no. However, we've had some discussion on the cost of phase 2 and phase 3, even phase 1. We feel that we have found, like steeplejacks, if we went with a different company to do the work, we could get the work done at a greater discount than what going through the company that we had picked before. And we feel the same thing for phase 2 and phase 3. We do have, at the time we interviewed 4 different companies to do the work. And so they came in at a smaller amount than Gale Associates. So we're hoping this, we would probably have to bring the same people back in and get new estimates from them for phase 2 and phase 3. Excuse me.
I think we need to talk, however, about the preservation restriction at this point and not talk about phases 2 and 3. I did not realize that a preservation restriction was a negotiable item. I thought that it was a requirement of our allocating money from the CPC. Am I wrong about that, or is this a
Nope.
negotiable point?
Nope, you're right. It's not negotiable.
And the point, we can't talk about phases 2 and 3 until we get a deed restriction or a preservation restriction on the first allocation that we made. I mean, that's not a point of negotiation.
Correct, and Bill, you're 100% correct in that, and that's what we said in the past, that we can't act on 2 and 3 until the deed restriction is in place. I don't know if that's still the thought of the committee, but we do need a deed restriction before work can start.
Gina, in your email to me today,
Mhm.
you, you mentioned setting up a meeting. Could we like set up a meeting pretty quickly
Mhm.
to have a conversation, you know,
Yep.
over everything?
Yep, what Bob was talking about, I sent her a quick email. Ginny Adams from Pell, and I never remember what Pell stands for, but it's a company that's doing the deed restriction for us, writing up all the language for it. She had sent us some drafts over the summer to be reviewed and questions answered, and then to do a follow-up with call with her for the next step. What I wrote to Barbara was asking if we could meet with her, Carlton and myself as representatives of the CPC, just to go over what Ginny Adams has sent us to see if everything's answered, if everything is copacetic, and then do the follow-up call. And so that's what Bob is alluding to, or not alluding, is talking about for the email that I sent her, was just to try to meet church representatives and us, just to make sure what point we're at with that. And I think some of these questions might be able to be answered for that. Any
Gordon,
thoughts?
Gordon,
I'd just like to point out the problem we're having at the church is that most likely we'll probably spend maybe around 100,000, not the 200,000 on the steeple. And I realize that the requirements are for a deed restriction to be made for any award to the church, but it seems hard to say we should accept a deed restriction on the complete church with a lot of requirements that would be going to be hard for the church to make as far as maintaining the church. If we don't maintain the church, even on some areas that we might not get approved from you on phase 2 and 3, that we'll be under different liability, that the church probably could not handle those, restoring the church, like some of our windows, if they were to go down and you had not awarded us phase 2 and 3. So I particularly myself saying, unless we're assured of phase 2 and 3, it's kind of hard to say we should allow a deed restriction to be put on the entire church, which we probably would have a hard time living up to. And I also know I'm looking for you to give us some words on the siding. We have to take the siding off or not. Thank you.
Okay, and that's a good question, Gordon, about the deed restriction on the whole church, if it's just a steeple. I don't have the answer to that. I've always been told the deed restriction goes for the whole building. That could be a legal question for our town attorney, if he knows the cases that it hasn't been for the whole property. We can check with him. As I said, it's a good question. I've just never been aware of it not being a whole property.
may I suggest that we not take action on this tonight, and that we absolutely set up that meeting, which has been delayed for over 6 months, and get that out of the way. Those people will be able to talk to us a little bit more about restrictions, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
How about the committee?
Yes, I would love to meet next week if we could.
Mm-hmm.
You know, rather than, you know, put it off a couple of weeks, as soon as possible. So for me,
said-
Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday are good. Actually,
Who's-
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
So does
Any
Gina
day.
have the monkey on her back to set up the meeting?
Sure, with the help of Josh, because the last time I tried to set up a meeting, Do we want to meet in person or on Zoom? I think if we can meet in person at the church is good.
Yes,
Um,
that would be good.
okay. So I think
Tuesday?
I can say. Tuesday, I'm just trying to reach for my power cord because I just got a low battery thing. I'll have to get up for it. Tuesday, I think I'm free in the morning. Wednesday, we're meeting with the finance director in the morning, but in the afternoon I'm free.
I'm clear on Tuesday.
Okay,
Tuesday's good for me.
okay.
We'll fi-
Gordon, no?
I can't make, I have a doctor's appointment
Okay, what's good for you?
any other day.
Okay, I can do Wednesday afternoon. As I said, we have the finance meeting in the morning.
Let's try for Wednesday afternoon and leave it at that so we don't keep everybody else on the screen for the next 2 hours.
Right, okay, sounds good. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to reach for this cord before we all die here. Okay, yeah, I'll send out a meeting request. Actually, Josh, can you send out the meeting request? The last one I tried, I don't think half the people got it.
Sure, if you just want to email me, everybody that should be invited.
I will. Okay, moving on to the next eligibility forms received. Sorry about that, got it all plugged in. Okay, we had the last couple months, well, last month, we had put it on hold for this month. The NIP open space project, we discussed the application or eligibility form, I'm sorry, briefly earlier. They've notified me that they're withdrawing that eligibility form. They're going to do more work on the whole thought of it and resubmit another one, but the one that we had has been withdrawn. Okay, next, Housing Authority, Hemlock Drive windows and exterior improvements, it's the eligibility form. We talked about this briefly last month. And we had talked about doing a walkthrough, which obviously we didn't do this month. Just with the town building inspector to see if it's like just if it's lack of maintenance that the windows need to be replaced and exterior improvements, or if it's just not lack of maintenance, they're just leaking and the old and need to be replaced. My suggestion is my thought that it is an eligible expense, and we can still do the walkthrough on it. But it sounds like from the letter that was attached from the Housing Authority, and unfortunately Stacy couldn't be here tonight, who's our Housing Authority representative, that they can start their, if we approve their eligibility form, and I want to say, let me look back, I want to say it was like 300 and something thousand. As we're discussing, I'll look back for the exact amount. It sounds like it is a viable expense, CPA funded, and we can still have the building inspector just see if it's maintenance or a lack of, but the building, the windows are old, and chances are they just need to be replaced. So discussion on that, well, I'm just looking back at the amount. Any discussion? Carlton, thoughts?
I'm here. I'm unmuted now. Sorry. I'm trying to keep myself quiet. I think that it probably is eligible under the support category for housing, even though it wasn't built by CPA money. We do have some feedback that probably is a public safety issue, and public safety issues might carry some weight. So if I were to make a motion, it would be that we say we have 4 boxes that we can fill, and we can fill out that it's probably eligible, and check that box. And then we can also check the box under support.
Mhm.
That opens the door for them to put a formal application into us, where we can actually do the more due consideration without stopping it forward. Also, I know there's an offer for all of us or some of us to visit the site and actually look at the decayed doors and windows. But that would be, if I were to make a motion, that would be my motion.
Okay, somebody, any more discussion, or does somebody want to make a motion? The amount they're asking for is 362,803.
But we don't vote on the amount. We're voting on the eligibility.
Right, but just throwing that out there if somebody wants to know. Okay, I'm just looking to see if I know she
Yeah,
says.
can I ask
something.
a question? I'm sorry.
Sure,
Where would that come out of? That would come out of the affordable housing bucket, so to speak?
yes,
All right, thank you.
correct. Good question.
And we've generally not had many expenditures from that bucket, have we?
Right, just McKelway School was it, as far as I can remember. Okay, do we have a motion that it's potentially eligible? I believe it's the term we use.
I'll move that it's potentially eligible under the support category for housing.
Second,
I'll second it. Maureen,
okay, thank you, Maureen. Discussion?
I
Okay,
definitely
here-
think we should do a site visit.
Yes,
Take a look at the area.
right. Okay. I'll work with Josh on setting that up. Okay, and if we have 5 is a quorum for us, if we have 5 from the CPC, we have to post it as a meeting. If we have less than 5, we don't have to post it. So we'll find a date and time that works. And if somebody can make it, just let us know. And if it happens to be 5, then we'll just have the meeting posted. Okay, good. Thank you.
Can we vote on the motion?
Thank you. I was all set to vote on it. Maureen's question. Okay, roll call. Josh?
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes,
Maureen,
Yes,
Patrick.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next thing is the Methodist Church. We have the application for historic renovation.
It's I thought it was,
I'm sorry, eligibility form.
thank
You're
you.
right. Okay.
Scared me
thank
there
you.
for a minute.
Okay, things they're looking at, they have amounts in there too, but there's an attachment to their eligibility form. They need to have the slate roof repairs, but they're covering that from their own funding. The next part was interior building, masonry repairs, waterproofing and masonry, I'm sorry, I will get that right, restoration. Elevator replacement, replace the ceiling in Ivor Lutz room upstairs and downstairs. Is there someone from the Methodist Church here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. And your name is
I'm Hank Boudreau. I'm using my wife's laptop.
Hank. Okay, I didn't think you looked like a Cindy.
No.
Okay.
I'm
thank you.
Tim Atwater, who is serving as pastor there as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good. I have a question before we get into discussion. Where did my question go? Is there ceiling in the Ivor Lutz? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right.
Close enough.
Is that a like original type ceiling, or is it just, has it been renovated for? So it's just like
The original ceiling is still there, but a drop ceiling was put in many years ago. So our general contractor member of our church is not on this call. He might give you a better idea of what it looks like. And I'm not sure the details of what that ceiling restoration would encompass at this point. Unless
Okay.
Tim can talk about it.
okay. Part of the description, it says steps and estimates include take down existing ceiling, remove debris, disconnect lights and install temporary lights, install new lights. Okay, so we have that. There was also, did I go past? Okay, upgrade the parking lot. I thought I missed something here, but I guess I got it all. So it's just the eligibility for, here's the last thing, was repair walls from mold contamination. Let's discuss it. My thought is that parts of it are eligible and parts of it are not eligible.
So the roof is eligible? Did you say that at the beginning?
Parts of it are eligible.
Right.
The masonry, and we can discuss this, for the rest of the CPC to see if they agree or disagree with me. Okay, it was also replaced floor in the Ivor Lutz room. Parking lots, CPC doesn't fund.
Okay.
Mold, looking for input from the rest of the committee. Repair walls for mold. Would that be thoughts that it's more of a maintenance issue? Thoughts from the rest of the CPC? Anybody?
Well, I would concur that the parking lot is ineligible. I would suggest that, I'm trying to look at this, the walls, it would depend a little bit on whether it's restoration or repair. The replace the floor, again, it sounds like it's not a restoration, but maybe. The ceiling, again, if you're going back to the original ceiling like we did in the Academy building, it was the original metal, and the Academy building had that restoration and use. So maybe. I think the elevator replacement actually could be eligible, since we do under historic preservation, and we are funding the accessibility for the Memorial Library. So I think that may be one of the more likely ones. And the last one is the exterior, it's repair, and the slate roof is repair. So I don't think those are eligible in my own opinion. It's up to the committee, but I have to ask the question I asked earlier, because this particular church had applied for funding some, I don't know, almost 10 years ago, and was provided that money and then refused to accept the money, or did not want to accept the money because there would be a deed restriction placed on the building. And I'm assuming that the church has considered that. And my question is, are you or are you not willing to get a deed restriction on the building.
That was for the parish house. We have two buildings on the property. One is the original church. We now call it the parish house. And what we're talking about tonight is the actual church, the stone church that you see on School Street. So there was thoughts on the parish house, 10 years ago that we didn't want to inhibit what we really needed to get done by having a deed restriction. As far as the church goes, we might be willing to discuss the deed restriction. I'm not really that versed on what a deed restriction is, but yeah, if that sounds like the ceiling downstairs has to be back down to the metal ceiling, then we have to talk about that ourselves, because it may not be viable for that ceiling.
Yeah, and I will note that the church is in fact listed on the Mass Historic website.
Great. Yeah, it's there's a cornerstone there from 1913 that's you can see at the church. So it's been around a while. So that's our plan. I mean, I think we have some funds to do some of the get started on the roofing, but it sounds like from what you're saying, roofing is not eligible. Is that true?
I don't think it is, but here the thing is, the committee has to seriously consider a 3-part test that resulted from a church in Acton requesting CPC funds, and certain parts of that were denied because it had to do with a religious connotation, et cetera, et cetera. So we have to follow a 3-part test. And I've tried to apply the 3-part test as much as I could in my thinking. And we have new members on the board that have not gone through this before. So I'm not sure if they're willing to vote tonight or not. But the 3-part test requires, well, I don't have it in front of me. I'm sorry. I apologize. We can send that to you, but.
Okay, Carlton and Hank, I had sent that to Sherry Sprong after
Okay.
our last meeting, and I believe she was going to share it
She
with the
did.
rest of the.
Yeah, excuse me, this is Tim.
Hey, Tim.
Sherry did share that, and I have reviewed the Acton decision at length. And the one thing that our trustees, of which Hank is a member, Jim Paquette is a builder himself, is the chairperson. The one response we wanted to make on the masonry, where some concerns had been raised about masonry surrounding the stained glass window, would be to simply say that it's all one structure, and that in Jim, the trustees chairman's opinion, who's a builder himself, it's all one. You'd be endangering the integrity, structural integrity of all the masonry on, at least on that wall, if you didn't cover the whole thing, because it's of a piece. And so it's a structural issue in our view, not a religious preservation issue of the stained glass. Oh, the stained glass is historic, and it's probably worth a lot to an antiquarian just on that value, but we're not making that case. That's just background.
Okay, good. Thank you. The question that Hank mentioned about the roofing, that would be potentially eligible if it was going back to the original roofing type of roofing.
Pretty sure it is. It's a slate roof.
Right, that's what I thought, but according to what their attachment to the eligibility form, it says our church will cover the roof repairs in Part A, and that's the slate roof repairs, through a loan on our investments as well as a capital campaign.
Correct.
I wanted to just chime in on that point, because
Sure.
we were trying to be responsive to your guidelines that want to see matching endeavor. So that was our good faith effort to say up front, we are committing our own money to that, and we can do a very low interest loan on that if we need to. We will be doing a capital campaign, and that will succeed too for that, at least that amount, but how quickly, I don't know. So that's why we said it both ways.
Okay, now, question, tonight we just voted if it is eligible. And I think we've determined that there are parts that are potentially eligible. Has the roof repairs been started yet?
No,
Okay, possibly what you could look at is, and I understand the good faith and I appreciate that you're willing to pay part from church funds. Possibly put the roof repairs in, pull the parking lot out,
Mhm.
because parking lots are definitely a no. And work up your figures that way. Thoughts from CPC members?
Yeah, I think we have to go back to Carlton's point, which I was going to actually make. Carlton expressed it perhaps better than I could. And that is the question of the preservation restriction. That is not a negotiable point. We were required to impose this preservation restriction on any property that we fund through CPC allocations. So that's important to keep in mind. That's not a negotiable point. And when the CPC approved a grant application for the Unitarian Church across the street there, they agreed to a deed restriction, and the Historic District Commission, which I chair in town, was asked to hold the preservation restriction, which we do. So I think we need to be very emphatic about that. That is not a negotiable point.
Are you talking about the three-part test?
No.
No, it's a separate, it's required, anything that's funded by CPA funds, say for a church, or the ones I've seen it on have all been churches. And as we were talking about for the Congregational church, their deed restriction is in process. That because it's paid with CPC funds, CPA funds, needs to have a restriction on it that it can't be sold, it can't be modified, it can't change what was done.
Okay, I kind of understand what that is right now then. I didn't know what that was. Okay.
Right. I had asked right at the start when I was approached by a member from your church about this,
Mhm.
and I did bring up about the deed restriction in the past, that, as Carlton said, that the Methodist Church pulled out and didn't take the award. And it's Hank, I'm not sure if it was you or Jim that said it. It's because it was for the other building.
It was
I did
me.
ask
Yeah, I was the one that said it was for the other building, but I can't even remember. I don't know if I was even in on that myself, but anyway, I know
Okay,
it was the other building. Yeah.
Okay, good. And I did ask before all the work was put into it by your church, if, like, what the thoughts were for the deed restriction. And the person that had approached me from the church came back and said, yes, it was okay for a deed restriction. But you guys might want to discuss that further.
Yeah,
I
could you
think-
get into more detail what a deed restriction is? I frankly, I don't know. Is that something in writing you just want to send to me, or rather than take up time at your meeting?
If I could just interject, if we could get a copy of the statute or the guideline that you use, and more clarity, as I think the Congregational church was asking a minute ago, about, is it all or nothing? You know, if it can it be divided so that we're definitely willing to commit to preservation of whatever we're funded for, and how much further, you know, and we're not gonna have any issues with taking out the parking lot or anything else that doesn't apply, certainly not. But just a clarification of what it applies to, and all that, and we can then go from there. And if for any reason we had to say we can't do it, we'll get back to you quickly. Just to add that it's all one property on the town rolls. So if you Google the town records or whatever, you'll see that the so-called parish house, which we're now leasing long-term, we hope, to some folks associated with the well counseling services. And they may do some youth ministry there too, because some of them are members of another church. But that's all one property and shares a septic with the church that was formerly known as Gammons, which is now the Bridgewater United Methodist. That's just background.
Yeah, I just want to say that the requirement for the deed restriction is not a local requirement. It's the state mandated requirement, and we don't really have any control over that.
Right.
Because the state contributes a large percentage of funds to the CPC budget. And our hands are tied. We're not trying to be difficult with this deed restriction, and it is confusing, I grant you.
Understood.
But it is unfortunately a requirement.
Understood and appreciated. And if you can even just refer us to where we can go to get the details on how that applies building wise and grounds wise, that would be much appreciated. Any links to that?
Okay, we can do that, get to the information. I asked too that CPC members, especially if you haven't gone through the 3-part test before, look at that. Josh sent it out in the packet, your meeting packet. Look at that good, write down, or I have to write it down because if I don't, I'll forget. But just write down your thoughts on each of the 3 questions. If you have any questions, what we're allowed to do before or authorized to do for our Congregational church, if we had questions, we could contact the town attorney. Like say one of you had a question, you could just write to him with your questions and your thoughts on it, the legality of it. I'm sure he'll go along and do that again for this one. So we do have the eligibility form before us tonight.
I have a question.
Sure.
So the 3-part questions that the group is looking at, is that something we can look at? Do we get to know what the 3 questions are?
Sure. And
Can-
that was sent, I
Sherry,
sent that to Sherry.
if we have it, and you've got a copy of it, Sherry.
We have that?
I
Okay.
can recirculate that to you.
Yeah, that would be good because it sounds important.
Okay, yep, and as Carlton mentioned, it stems from a case in Acton a few years back that funds were given that shouldn't have been given.
All right.
Okay, so for the CPC, we have our eligibility form before us. Do we want to vote on that it's potentially eligible, or do we want to hold off till next month? Thoughts?
Well, the eligibility approval doesn't guarantee any funding. It's
Correct.
it's just a pro forma step in this. It's the first
Correct.
step in the process.
Right. Right. So my
What
thought.
I would say to that, there are some maybes in here,
Mhm.
but there's a lot more due diligence that has to be done.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you saying not to vote on the eligibility tonight? And wait for more info, or vote on that is potentially eligible, like we did for the
It seems to me that we should hold off voting because both parties have some work to do. Typically, and it's highly recommended by everybody, that the town attorney would review this input and have an opinion. We've done that for the Central Square Church. And he was very succinct in his comments. And we can provide some of those comments too. That's public record. We can provide those comments that he made on that particular application, if it would be helpful.
I believe that was at the bottom of the three-part test. There were some of Attorney Rollins' comments.
It's in our agenda package that was sent to all of us. I don't know if it's publicly available.
Right, it is. It's all, our whole agenda packet is available on the town website.
When were those legal reviews rendered? Before the eligibility form vote was taken, or at the point of the actual grant application?
Bill, at the time that we started the Central Square Congregational Church application process, we weren't using an eligibility form.
Yeah, oh, yeah, you're right. Yep.
So they
I
just came
remember that.
into us with an application.
Yeah.
Okay, is that the accountant's feeling was to hold off on the vote for eligibility? Other thoughts? My thought is that, yeah, there's work to be done on both sides, our side and the church's side. I don't think, my feeling is that, yes, there is work to be done, but it wouldn't affect our eligibility because there are parts that are potentially eligible. So I would like to see a vote on it tonight, but I also want to hear from the rest of the committee. On just their eligibility form. Okay, similar to what we did for the housing authority for the windows and exterior improvements, we said it's potentially eligible and we're going to look into it further. My thought is to do the same for the Methodist Church.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay, the rest
Because
of the
it's going to take months and months for everything to come together. If we remember the saga of the Congregational Church, because of the question of separation of church and state and why we have to be so careful in any decision. I mean, I don't know. It's been 2 years, I guess, in the process that we've been working with the Congregational Church. And they've gotten certainly partial funding. But I think we should kind of get the ball rolling. So I agree with you, Gina.
Okay, thank you. That's from
The only other thing I would add to that, excuse me, is that we can fund restoration. We cannot fund repairs.
Correct.
Because it falls into maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And that term is very important in how we look at this. And I'm still struggling a little bit with, are we just gonna, is this a restoration project or is it a repair project? Thank you.
From what I see from their eligibility form, the attachment to it, it's a combination of the two. It's just what I get from it. Maybe others don't agree with that, get something different from it. And I think those are questions that we need to ask.
Maureen had her hand up.
Yeah, Maureen, go ahead.
I would rather get a few more answers before we do any voting on it, because they don't seem quite sure about how they feel about the deed issue. And they have questions also, and there's questions again about the restoration versus repair. So until some more answers are they have more specific answers. You probably can have it done in a month and have it back again next month and have some better answers for the questions we've had.
Mm-hmm.
My humble opinion.
Okay, I agree in part for that. But as far as repair, maintenance versus restoration, what's the difference between this eligibility form and the Hemlock Drive one that we said is potentially eligible? And we want to look into if it's actually maintenance or improvements just from old wear and tear that the windows wear out. So I guess my question is, what's the difference in thought between the two? Because we voted that Hemlock Drive was potentially eligible. And we would do a walkthrough and determine if it was maintenance. And the Methodist Church saying, is it maintenance or is it restoration? I'm just asking the two that are opposed to it, what your thought is on what the difference between the two eligibility forms are.
I'm going to hear from Mr. Brodrew.
Yeah, Boudreaux. Thank you. Anyway, the roof is what we're going to pay for. We're going to get the loan for. And in my opinion, that is definitely restoration. It's an old slate roof. It's not, we're not replacing with something new. We're not,
Yep.
you know, so that to me is restoration. So my question based on that is, are we going to get some reimbursement for that? Or once we do the roof, that done, we go to the next thing in our request, or do we get any compensation for the roof?
Once the work is done,
Mhm.
we can't pay for it. It would have to be approved upfront for CPA funding.
Mhm.
That's why I suggested before, and if you folks want to redo your eligibility form, and the roof is, if it's going back to the slate,
Mhm. It is.
is more likely funding because it's a restoration. So include that in, maybe take out the parking lot that we know definitely isn't, and use
Sure.
your funding to pay the parking lot.
Sure.
Just a thought. I don't know how the rest of the CPC feels on that thought.
Well, we just had a discussion, well, in past meetings, and then a vote tonight about the roof on the townhouse, which we considered to be part of the historic restoration. So I don't understand why we would allow roof restoration for one application and then not allow for another application, which
Right,
is trying to restore an original slate roof.
And the Methodist Church actually, even though it was listed as what needs to be done, they also noted that they would pay that themselves. So my suggestion to them is, where it is going back to the original slate tiles, slate, I don't know if you call them tiles,
Shingles.
but the
Shingles.
slate roof,
Yeah.
to put that as, and as you said, we just approved for one place, why not for the other? And this one's going back to the original type, or replacing the original type, to modify their eligibility form to include that is being requested from CPC, and pull off things like the parking lot that I think that's the only one Linda wasn't. And I have questions on the mold, because that could just be a maintenance thing.
We think the roof is going to fix the mold. That's our understanding, speaking to some consultant. So it's very possible, you know, we'll just pull the parking lot and just leave the mold out of it for now.
But if the roof is not listed on the eligibility form, and we vote on that, then can the roof expenses be added at the time of the actual grant application, even though it was not part of the eligibility? I don't know. I'm asking.
I think whatever's in the eligibility form, we may have to parse it out a little bit more, and that's why I would like to defer voting on this. We all have some due diligence to do on this, and the church needs to look at some of the documents a little bit more closely, the deed restriction. We can send you what the statute defines things as restoration, et cetera. So you can look at that and see if it fits better. But if you say repair, to me, that's a red flag.
Right, that could just be too, Carlton. It could be restoring it, but people that aren't familiar with CPA terms
Right.
might call it repair when they really, it's being restored.
Yeah,
So
and that's,
that could-
yeah,
yeah.
Gina, we're educating here each other right now. So
Right, and I agree. First I want to hear from, who do we have? Pat, are you still here? Okay, he might be in his car. Jeff, your thoughts?
I'm like mine with you, Gina. I think it's partially eligible, and I don't see a problem voting it through. That gives them a month at least to review all those things that they need to, and us too, before any money's given. So I don't see the problem.
Okay, thank you, Harry.
Hank?
Harry?
No comment.
I want to go back to my question. It probably
Sure.
wasn't very clear. If the roof restoration cost is not mentioned in the eligibility form, is that expenditure disallowed when the formal grant application is submitted? I have no idea.
No, it wouldn't be disallowed.
Okay. That was
yeah,
my
this
question.
eligibility is a strict decision. Is it eligible? Is it not? Does it meet all the definitions or not? It doesn't have anything to do with money at this point.
Right. So if we want to be nice and neat for it, we can ask the church to resubmit their eligibility form, taking off, like we said, the parking lot definite is a no. Adding the roofing in, because that'll change and I know we're not voting, well, I guess that changes it, because we're not voting money for it, we're just saying, is it eligible? And it's potentially eligible for some parts, not all.
Right.
So I think there's 3 of us that would like to see a vote tonight. One for a no vote and one for a.
Gina, can I just ask a question?
Sure,
I know
you're back. We were looking for your input.
I know I'm new to the game, but a deed restriction is a big deal, depending on what's in there for language.
Correct.
And could be perpetual. I don't know how long, what the term is on these or what repayment criteria is or anything like that. So, I mean, I think they should try to look at some draft language and see if they're even comfortable with it, and then maybe resubmit their application.
Okay, they haven't submitted an application yet, Pat. It's still there. It's the eligibility form asking if the funding is eligible, if the project components are eligible for funding. So that's all we'd be voting on tonight. Then they can decide in the next month if they want to go through with the deed restriction. But at least it gets them started if we're approving or not approving their eligibility form. By approving as potentially eligible, like we did for the housing authority, we're not saying we're approving all the funding. We're just saying that, yes, the project is potentially eligible for CPA funding, and that they can start their application process. And if they want to not put an application in after they review what we send them on the deed restriction, that's fine. But at least we're voting to say it is eligible.
I would appreciate if someone would simply either say, let's postpone or make a motion as to what we're going to do. We're talking in circles right now.
Okay. Can I make a motion as chair? I can make a motion, right?
Anybody on the committee can make a motion.
Okay, I motion that we approve the Methodist Church eligibility form as potentially eligible.
I second that motion.
Okay, discussion? Hearing none. Josh, roll call, please.
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes,
Um,
Patrick,
No, it's just eligibility, so I'll say yes.
thank you. The motion was approved.
Great, thank you.
Also, I would like to include the things that we talked about, Gina, or whoever's going to write them, this up,
Mhm.
that there are elements of that eligibility form that are not eligible. So we need to be very clear as to what is probably not eligible, like the parking lot.
Right, correct. And also that we're questioning if, say, the walls and the flooring in our Ida Lutz room, I think that was the name of it. If it's restoration or just repairs. So those would have to be shown, like documented, which it is. But I will send something out, Hank and Tim, saying that we voted that it is potentially eligible. We'll get you the information on the deed restriction, so you can look at that. We can send that out to the whole committee too. Because I have to say, when I started on CPC, I had no idea what a deed restriction was. So we'll send that out to the whole committee too, so you can review it.
Yeah, that's important, I think, to us. And there was something that somebody mentioned about the property has to be in perpetuity, something, the word perpetual.
I think Pat was just asking if the deed restriction is in perpetuity.
They
Right.
are in perpetuity.
They
Yes.
They are. And what does that mean? I mean, I know what perpetuity
Forever.
is, but
Forever.
I know what that means. But does that mean if the property got sold, there would be a legal hold on the sale?
I think, actually, I'm not sure what
It's not a hold, but the deed restriction runs with the property. So if the property gets sold, that restriction gets sold along with the property. So whoever buys the property is bound by that restriction as well.
Okay,
Okay, thank you,
Fair enough.
Jennifer, for clarifying that.
that clears up something. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. And if you don't have our emails, maybe you could just send it to Sherry Sprong, who I believe you do have her email, and she can
Mhm.
forward it on to the rest of us.
Okay, great.
We
Thank
do
you. And thank you so
appreciate
much
your
for your,
consideration. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
yes, and thank you for your patience with us too. It's much appreciated. Okay,
That's good.
moving
Use
on.
that.
Okay, administrative account updates, Jennings Hill Cemetery. Carlton reached out to,
We're going to say goodbye, but thank you so much.
okay, thank you guys. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Carlton reached out to Rich from, and I can't think of his last name, but from the Jennings Hill Committee. And he can probably elaborate on it, but they've been having trouble trying
I'm
to
sorry, I'm confused. I don't see it on the agenda.
administrative account updates.
I don't have that on my agenda either.
It's not on the.
Oh, okay,
The
I'm
the
looking
next,
at,
it's project updates, library, Stiles and Hart, Central Square Church, and pickleball courts, and
was
Memorial
it
Building and
between,
McCullough
I'm
School.
looking at what I sent Josh. I didn't print out the agenda. I had printed out what I had sent him. I didn't print out our formal agenda that he sends out, but it should be number 3. administrative account updates?
The one that's posted does not show an administrative
So
accounts
I'll
updates
just,
item.
just to keep the meeting moving, I did reach out. They had been notified about that we had funded, but according to what we've learned today, the admin funds, if they're not spent in the fiscal year that they're voted, the remainder goes back to the undesignated fund. And basically, I think we would have to revote that and let's move on from there, because they're not prepared to move that far. The person that was going to do the training and the assessment is schedule has been messed up in terms of the timing here, so that's not on the agenda. And but that's a brief update.
Okay.
Okay, and we need to discuss that, because what I got from the correspondence with the finance department is the vote would still carry. It's just paid in whatever fiscal year the work is done, but we can discuss that with finance next week.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Josh, you can put these under other old business because somehow it got off of what was sent. So you can put Jennings Hill and the senior center design study that we had voted to pay for the study out of our admin account. That has been started. The study, they were late in getting it started. Melissa Desjardins, who's the architectural, not architectural, the landscaping engineer. She's held, I think, 1 or 2 open sessions. I went to one last week, and then she's going to have a couple more just to get people's input on what they'd like to see there. Then she'll write up a final report. And we've already said the project is eligible. So the senior center will put in an application, but right now the study is in process.
And apparently being paid for out of our admin funds,
Correct.
this year's admin funds.
Right, correct. Which, because some of these projects that we thought were going to be done and paid last fiscal year and they weren't, we may have to look at our admin budget again mid-year. But we'll discuss that with the finance director next month and report next week and report back next month. Okay, funded project updates. The library they already have some of their digitization done, and they should be getting their cases in soon to start putting things into it. Did I miss anything on that, Carlton?
Yeah, I think that the cases have started arriving, and I know that there are 2 of the documents that have been broken down, digitized, and put back together. But we'll find out more about that.
Right.
Next time. Moving on.
Okay, good. Stiles and Hart Parkland improvements, one bill has been paid. They're starting to work on the
Jennifer, do you have any
improvements.
update on that?
Sure, I'm happy to update you on that project. So we had applied for a National Park Service grant for that project. We are in their hands at the moment. However, they are not going to be able to fund us until we have all of our permits in hand, which means all of our Conservation Commission permits in hand. We can't get those permits until we finish the wetland delineation, and due to the summer weather and the drought that we had, they weren't able to do the delineation over the summer. So they put that on hold. We did reach out to them last week, and they are waiting for some of the leaves to come off of the thickets and the brush so that they can get in there and delineate the wetlands. And they're hoping to do that, in the next couple weeks and finish that. And once they do that, we should be able to file permits with the Conservation Commission in about a week, and then get that over back up to the National Park Service to finish that process. So we're in process, but we're kind of at a standstill due to weather right now, but we're working towards it.
any sense of schedule? This is probably 2 months to get the conservation thing done,
Yeah.
and then maybe spring for construction.
Yeah, I would say at this point, it's probably spring for construction.
Thank you.
Good, thank you, Jennifer, for that. Okay, next is Central Square Congregational Church. We discussed that as part of our previous item. Pickleball courts are, I've looked into that because it was a Park and Recs project. There's a small balance left. Jim Small, who's our superintendent, was just making sure, I talked to him last week, he was just making sure that everything has been paid. So he'll get back to me on that. I requested a formal report, which is part of our award, that we have to have report at the end, how much money we spend, pictures, the whole kit and caboodle. So he's gonna work on that. Memorial building, Jennifer, any update on
Sure.
that?
Yep. So the whole project ended up being about short about I think it's about $230,000. So the town is just going back to the town council for that additional funding soon. The expected completion date is November 1st. But that is dependent on many things. Right now, the holdup is they're waiting on the granite. They've had some trouble getting the matching granite to the existing granite. I guess it's some specific special kind of granite. So they had some difficulties finding and getting that. So they were waiting on that shipment. And that's what sort of the holdup for this project all over. There's been supply chain issues, but most recently it's been the granite. And so, but they are saying now the expected completion date is November 1st. And Michael will be going back to the council for the additional funding to complete the project.
So the quick question, why is he not coming to CPC?
I didn't ask him that specific question. Maybe it's for costs that aren't eligible. Maybe he just figures he has the money. I don't know. I can't answer that question.
I will tell you, a load of granite got delivered today.
Oh, okay.
There's
It might have got
some
delivered today
huge,
while he and I were having this conversation. So
no, there's some huge blocks of granite out there that don't look like enough, but they're started. And I also know, because I monitored the exterior completely, the stairway into the back of the building has been totally reconstructed. It's beautiful. They had to add a step. They also are now connecting, they're laying the footing to connect the sloped ramp from the back of the building into the handicap parking. They're laying concrete probably tomorrow or the next day. So that part of it's really close to being done. And the windows all have been replaced.
Like I said, I think they're pretty close. A couple more months work and it shouldn't be too bad.
Will they have an open house?
I would imagine, that's not for me to say, but I would imagine they would invite the public in. I mean, it's going to be a public office building, so you're welcome to go in at any time once it's open.
The outside looks great. Just what I can see, and Carlton's taken some pictures that he could probably share at the committee too.
I actually have a PowerPoint to show the whole process, but that's down the road a couple months.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you, Jennifer. You still up, Jennifer, from McElwain School?
Okay, so I don't have a ton of update on that, just to tell you that their anticipated opening date and move-in for apartments is January 2023. They've started their application process for the affordable units. They had a public like information meeting, I guess it was, I think it was last week, and they're accepting applications through the end of October with their lottery. I believe it's November 5th. And those applications are available on their website, and we have some in my office, and I think the town clerk's office might have some as well. So people can get them there. So they're moving along quite well. They are coming back to the Zoning Board of Appeals for one small minor modification. They moved, I guess, the dog park to a different side of the property. So because on the approved plans, it's shown on one side of the property and now they're moving it, they have to come back and just get the ZBA to sign off on those plans. And they're expecting expected to do that on October 12th at the ZBA meeting there. But other than that, as far as I know, they're moving forward and everything is going swimmingly.
Do you know what the
Great, thank
schedule
you.
is for putting the playground in out in front?
I don't, but I certainly can ask them and get that back to send you guys an email in writing on that.
Because they haven't tapped into the $135,000 that we appropriated. or the
No,
council.
we held that on out from them on purpose until they did that work.
Right. I actually went, thank you, Jennifer, for that report. I saw that they were having, there's a meeting last week, not a meeting, but an open session from McElwain School.
Mhm.
Foolish me, I thought it was talking about the whole construction project. I sat through a meeting of rental apartments and I had a couple of people I knew that were in it. And they said, oh, you're looking to, I'm like, no, I just didn't think that's what the meeting was. But it sounded like they have their act together good for it.
Yeah, they're using a pretty reputable management company to manage the affordable units. And they've done this work before in other communities, so they're pretty on top of it.
Mhm. Good, thank you. And I did ask the developer, CPC had done a walkthrough, I believe, back in May. And I asked any chance of, at some point before they rent everything out, that we can get back in and look, and he said, yes, he'd look into that. Okay, any questions or discussion on any of the project updates? Okay, anticipated projects, eligibility form approved, application not received, the Hanson's Farm. Jennifer, any update, new schedule?
So I can tell you that we did receive sort of a very generic survey from the Hanson family I believe it was last week, or at least I received it last week. And Michael and I looked at it briefly and feel that there's some additional stuff that needs to be placed on it. But what we want to do is get it over to Zu Antonero, who's our DPW director, but he's also a professional land surveyor, and have him take a look at it before we ask the Hansons to do any additional work at this time. They also need to provide it in electronic format so that Michael can get it over to the appraiser, so that the appraiser can do their work. And we really can't do, I mean, we have sort of a basic draft outline of the farm plan and the conservation restriction, but we can't really nail that down until we know exactly what it is we're purchasing. And without the survey, the full survey, it's hard to know that. So we're sort of at a standstill. I did do an updated timeline, which I forgot to bring home with me, so I don't have that here, and I certainly can send that to you. It doesn't extend the end of the project any further, because if you remember when we did the timeline, we were working backwards from a specific grant deadline in late next June. So that deadline is firm and we're not extending that out any further. It just sort of condensed the other things a little bit more, unfortunately. We had previously built in some wiggle room in case stuff like this happened, and we had some, we knew that the Hansons were going to be going into the summer season, which is their busy season, and we didn't want to put any pressure on them and that kind of stuff. So we built in some wiggle room. So we're feeling confident that we can still meet some of the, we didn't meet the immediate, goals in that timeline, but I will send you the updated timeline and you can take a look at that, and maybe at your next meeting, if you have additional questions, and hopefully by then we'll have a better handle on where the survey stands.
Okay, great. For CPC members, I was given a copy of that survey plan. I believe it was Sunday. I think it was Sunday. If anybody wants to see it, I'd have that. I haven't looked at it closely myself, but not that I probably know what it was on it, but I do have a copy of that. Now, Jennifer, wasn't on the original timeline, it was something that from the survey point to applying for, or was it the appraisal, applying for something, it had to be within so many days? Am I right on that?
No, so the appraisal has to be within 1 year of the application, the grant appraisal that we're applying for. So we're within that now, so I'm not worried about that now, but that's what we had been working backwards from previously.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Jennifer, did you say the conservation restriction is, I would call it a rough draft format?
It's the generic format. We're using pretty much the same one that you guys used for Murray Needs. So we've sort of taken that and wiped out all of the specific details for Murray Needs. So it's nothing too dramatic. I wouldn't.
Great.
And we haven't done any specifics to Hanson Farm yet.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Any questions from the rest of the CPC, comments on the Hanson Farm update?
Gina, can I say something? This is Eileen.
Sure.
I just wanted to mention, given your description of the timeline, Jennifer, it might be useful to get something and remind the Hansons of that. When I was getting the survey from them last week, I was asking Bob about, I know they intend to get a reappraisal. And I asked him about his timeline for that, and he said he wasn't going to be able to get to it till, I can't remember what he said, but it was a ways out. So it might be good if there's some deadlines that they really need to get things to you by to meet the timeline that you've set forth, that we remind them of that, because a lot of time has gone by and they've probably lost track of it too. They're doing what they can do. And of course, the survey took a lot longer than expected.
Yeah, when we reach back out with them with survey questions or issues, I'll certainly try to get them back on track or remind them of some of these deadlines, and the grant application that we're looking to apply for is an annual one. So if for some reason they're not ready to move forward this year, or they can't, they have too much going on or whatever it is, that I assume the town will be willing to move at their pace. And if the town is willing to, wait another year, I don't think that would be too much, especially if we have all the main backup already done and we're just like waiting for some of the minor pieces to be finished on their end. So, but I can have that conversation with Michael and them as well and bring that back to you.
That's good, thank you. And Bob did say he expected the electronic version quickly, but so you might, if you don't get that, let me know and I'll follow up with them again.
Okay.
And Jennifer, in terms of our appraisal of the property, I'm assuming you guys will be coming to us for admin money to do that.
I thought we already got admin money from you.
Well, that was last year.
Right.
Okay.
That gets back to the discussion we need to have, because I understood that once we take the vote, if it's not paid in the year we take it, it'll just get paid because we voted to pay for it. It'll get paid when the bill comes in, when it's done. But we need to clarify that.
Okay, well, I will, when Michael's back from vacation, I'll make sure that he puts forth another request to you for that.
If not that, at least some level of communication of when you intend to do it. Because we were under the impression that if you didn't spend it, it was gone. We had to revote it.
Right.
But the finance offices indicated, oh no, that's not the case. And so we have to clarify that. Thank you.
Well, if you get clarification on that next week and the money is still available, can you just let me know?
I will.
We will do that. We have a meeting next Wednesday. Gina and I have a meeting to go over some of these things. We'll let you know.
And we might grace you our presidents and actually just walk right in and see you to tell you.
Perfect. I'll be there.
Okay. Next, thank you for that too, Jennifer and others for questions. Anybody else? Any other CPC have questions or comments for that? Okay, and we'll share the timeline too with everybody. Okay, next, possible projects that we've heard are in the pipelines. It's a long pipeline because we heard this a while ago, was the purchase of the Broad Street property, which is adjacent to Stiles and Hart. Jennifer, do you know
So-
anything on that for
Yep.
an update?
So I believe that we had sent, or I should say the town manager had sent you an application for this project back in February of this past year for the amount of $340,000, which was the appraised value of the two parcels. We are still looking to acquire the parcels. The town attorney had been meeting with the attorneys for the landowners, and the decision has been made to do it as a friendly taking. And they have agreed to sell it for $300,000 versus $340,000, which is the appraised value. So I guess my question would be, is that application still in your pipeline, or does Michael need to resubmit that? Or because I think we would like to start moving forward on this sooner rather than later. So
Mhm.
I'm not sure where that stands.
Okay, let me look back. He may have sent it, and I'm just thinking that we never got anything.
We
But
don't
I'll
have,
look
an
back.
application. I'll be quick to it. We don't have an application.
Okay, I
have a
didn't think
conversation.
so.
Well, because I have an application that was sent to, that Michael sent to me that he did in February of 2022.
Apologize, but we've never seen it.
Okay.
I vaguely
I will forward
remember
you this
something on it.
email.
Yeah, I'll look back too, because I don't remember the application, but the dollar amount sounds familiar.
Okay.
So I'll look back too and see what I have and share it with everybody. We probably carried it so long on the agenda for the eligibility is not received, but I'll look back and check that, Jennifer, if you can check it too.
Yeah, so I have it now. So, and I know Michael's away on vacation, but if we can get this moving while he's away, so maybe he can get on your next agenda, that would be super.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and
Okay.
I'll look too, and if I don't see it, I'll just have you resend it to me.
Perfect.
Why don't you just resend it? That's the
Yeah,
quickest way.
just
Okay, I'll
send
just-
it to me anyways, and we'll
Okay.
get it out.
Thank you.
I'll do that tomorrow morning, Gina.
Thank you.
Okay, good, thank you. For, I guess I just explained it's what the purchase of the Broad Street property was. Jennifer, I'm also going to send to you and Michael, there's another piece of property there that just a citizen who walks that park all the time, and I don't know why she was even looking into this. There's a stray close to the river. If you go on the water and sewer access road going in, there's a piece of property that is kind of like off by itself. I was gonna send that. That's something that possibly the town could look into also acquiring. But I can send you and Michael all the information on that.
Sure. We'll take a look at it.
Okay, good. Next is last thing in the old business of the annual public hearing. For new members, we're required by the Mass General laws that set up the Community Preservation Act to hold an annual public hearing. Our last one is, we have to have it sometime in the year. Our last one, I believe, was the spring of 2021. So we're looking tonight to set a date for that. Carlton's been working on the PowerPoint presentation for that. We're looking tonight just to set a date.
Good. Just to be clear, I've volunteered to facilitate the meeting since I've done that for a lot of my career. But we just need a date.
Okay, I'm just pulling up a calendar. The
Well,
thought,
we could do it the next meeting.
right, I was gonna say that we have a number of other things that we could just meet on beforehand. Or just hold off. Problem, once we hit, and Carlton had to correct me because I was in the complete wrong month today. If we could get everything that we need to, well, everything's important for us, but in October or no later than mid-November, because we always end up with our November meeting hits the night before Thanksgiving. And nobody's ever crazy about that. So I would say two, as Carlton said, if you can set the date, that we have it October 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, October 25th, which is our next scheduled meeting.
I think 26th is the Wednesday, Gina, 25th is the
It
Tuesday.
is, I'm sorry. I at least got in the right month. I was in the complete wrong month before. Right, the 26th, so we can do it the 26th. Okay, and that works for Pat, for the planning board too. We can do it the 26th and just take time after, just for some of the votes we have, or we can choose another night. We can do a quick meeting on another day. Yeah, I'm looking, we have the Summer Street property that we need to vote on. I don't know if we'll have the two other applications in Housing Authority Methodist Church, which those two can both, if we need to hold off on those.
If we don't do it the next meeting, then we need to figure a date. And that means more commitment in December, et cetera. I would expect to do it an hour. We do have to do a public paper notification. It is a matter of getting the public involved. So we can defer it until after the first of the year. That is a bit more problematic in that we haven't had a public hearing for 18 months and we're required to have one in a calendar year.
Right, I would like
I
to
would
see it
like to hear
this year.
people's opinion.
I'm sorry, Carlton, I interrupted you.
That I just want people to chime in here. Do you want to do it next meeting or do you want to hold off? People let us know.
Did we allocate some money for a professional to assist with this project, or is that something else that we allocated money for?
We talked about it. Carlton reached out to Jennifer Golson, who
Oh,
has
yes,
done
yes,
it before, and she's not able to help out with it.
I see. Okay.
But we have the presentation that they had done a couple of years ago that we can work off of. I know we can call on Jennifer for her thoughts, if for anything. So I think we're more than capable of doing it.
Yeah, I remember the one that we had at the senior center several years ago. I think you presided, Gina, and it was a very effective PowerPoint presentation.
Right.
So
it was. I thought so too.
so
That was February of 2020.
that was right before COVID.
Because like 2 days later, I was leaving on vacation and came back from vacation and the whole world blew up.
Right.
So I remember that date when it was. Maureen, did you have a question?
No, just a comment. You said you want to comment. I would rather have it done in October because you're not going to get me the day before Thanksgiving. And right after Christmas, I have lots of relatives visiting, and good luck to find me then. I'll try my best, but in the next 2 months, it'll just be crazy busy.
Yeah, we usually,
agree.
right, we usually, what we've done the last couple of years is not had a November meeting, basically, because it's the night before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah.
And thank you,
Move it
Carl.
to a different day. That's fine, but not that day.
Right.
And I just want to thank Carlton publicly for his willingness to do the presentation. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I've actually put the PowerPoint together. It's just a matter of figuring out the questions to drive the comments.
Yep. Okay. Other thoughts on when it should be? Harry, Jeff, Pat?
I'm gonna go with the next meeting. Because why wait?
Thanks.
We've waited long enough. Just have it the next meeting.
Right. Thanks, Harry. Pat or Jeff, thoughts?
Yeah, next meeting's fine with me too.
Okay,
Next meeting's fine.
okay, so let's plan on October 26th. Can have a birthday party for me at the same time.
I would
October 20th.
suggest that, I would suggest the time that
That's
meeting
what I was
would
just
be,
gonna ask, what
the
time?
the hearing should be from 7 to 8. That
Okay,
way we have a half an hour of getting set up, that, et cetera, and then we can do the public hearing.
okay.
Well, will we open the meeting then at 6:30 or at 7?
I would assume, by my thinking, we'd open it to 6:30. We would do some of the preliminary type stuff, get minutes,
okay.
et cetera, get that out of the way, and then go forward. So, but again, if we have some major votes that we have to take, that we may want to make the hearing be at 7:30.
Right. Well, we did the last time. We had the hearing, then we met after for anything we had to do. Either way works for me.
Let's do it at 6:30,
Mm-hmm.
1 hour or less, and then we will finish our business. That's my,
This is not a live meeting, I take it.
it will be a Zoom meeting.
A Zoom meeting.
I'm
Okay, so
assuming.
it will be a Zoom.
What's your preference? I think we'll get more participation through Zoom than we would have live.
Well, when we had
Whatever.
it, yeah, when we had it live 2 years ago, the senior center was packed.
Yeah.
We did have great attendance, virtual attendance last year. So it's a toss up, but I think the town, and Jennifer can weigh in for this, I think the town is still frowning on in-person meetings.
I think at the moment, they're asking all boards and committees to continue to meet remotely, except for the council, because the council has, other boards and committees don't have the assistance of BTV to do sort of the hybrid viewing live on Zoom like the council does. So until they can figure out the staffing solutions for that piece of it, because I think the ultimate goal is to do hybrid in perpetuity. So until they can figure that out, I think as long as we're allowed to meet remotely through the state legislature, I think that's the choice right now, is to have everybody meet remotely.
Okay.
Because that offers the most opportunity for participation from the public.
Right. I actually love the Zoom meetings. I can be eating my supper or whatever and watching them. Okay, so if we post for our meeting at 6:30, hopefully we finish all our votes by 7:30, and the public hearing can be 7:30 to 8:30. How does that sound for times?
Good, good.
It's fine. I was going to do it the opposite, public hearing at 6:30, but
Okay, that's fine too.
let's do the public.
That's actually,
Let's do the public hearing at 7:30 for 1 hour.
okay. It's okay. I'm thinking it's probably maybe better to do our meeting afterwards. So if we're not done, we don't have to interrupt for the public hearing. Either way. Okay, somebody flip a coin. Which way first?
I mean, these meetings that we have go on forever. So I don't think we'll be able to cover the business in an hour. The regular
right, so we should,
meeting business. I mean, they just
right, so we should probably do it after. Or we could start. I don't anticipate a lot of stuff for the October meeting.
Yeah, let me do it this way. I move we have the public hearing starting at 6:30, ending at 7:30, and our regular meeting to continue after that.
I second it.
Okay, good. Discussion? I think that's good. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Josh? Roll call?
Gina,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Great, thank you. Josh, that's going to need to be posted 2 weeks before. Can you take care of that?
Sure.
It needs to be
Good.
advertised. It needs to be.
It has
Right,
to be in the
that's-
newspaper.
Newspaper.
Yeah, that's what I meant, the advertised. Thank you,
Okay.
Jennifer. I'm thinking you advertised in the papers and I said posted. Still has to be posted, but it needs, the most important thing is advertised. Okay, good. That's one thing we can take off our agenda that's been on for a while. New business is housing trust future.
That's a point I brought up. The housing trust is administrative code as a member. There is no appointed housing trust membership. I will let people know, and we don't have to really discuss it. I will let the people know I've talked with a couple of counselors about potential solutions. One of which would be the diversity committee that's probably going to be formed in the next 2 weeks. That we bring somebody in from that committee to help with thinking about various issues, et cetera. So I'm going to say stay tuned. I'm working on it. Thank you.
Good. I've also written to the town manager, asking the two-part question. Does he anticipate the housing trust being resurrected in the near future? And if not, how can we change so that we don't have a slot for a member from the housing trust that doesn't exist, therefore it doesn't have members? And we have to count that slot into our quorum. So it's always like one person's missing right off the start. I haven't heard back from the town manager, but Jennifer, you can maybe, when you talk to Michael, bring that up too.
Okay.
Seeing if we can replace, and I actually was looking at the original ordinance when the CPC was set up in town. I apologize, I have it pulled up on my laptop and I'm on the iPad right now. There's two, the way it was originally set up. I don't know when it got changed because there's members that we have now from committees, commissions and boards that weren't in the original setup. The original setup had, I believe, if I remember right, somebody from the master plan. It was different. There were a couple different people than what we have now. So I don't know when that got changed or how it got changed. But somebody might know the answer to that. I myself don't.
Master plan became non-functional 4 years ago.
Okay, but I don't think for as long as I've been on, we ever had a master plan representative member.
Let's just, the people have been here a long time, so let's just let folks know that we're looking at it and we'll get back to them in a little bit if you don't mind.
Nope, that's fine. Carlton, you're good at, you like to look these things up. Can you see when it changed? I'll send you what I found. And if you can just look, I'm just curious when it changed. But okay, moving on, committee representative input. I don't know if anybody has anything from their respective committees. I've already reported for Park and Rec. Maureen, anything from open space new?
Not really, no. No, maybe next month.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you for asking though.
Okay, Jeff?
No,
Anything?
I don't have anything right now.
Okay, Harry?
No, just the regular permits that we give out.
Okay, great. Pat? Okay, I think we lost Pat. Okay, public comments?
I'm here. I just couldn't click off. I'm here.
Oh, okay, no problem. Do you have anything to update us on for the planning board?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, good. I like these short reports. Input. Public comments? Okay, hearing none. Our next meeting, don't go by your agenda because that says October 27th and it's October 26th. And that's it.
Can I ask a question? Are you
Sure.
not going to have a meeting in November? I like to have my schedule done out.
If we do, we try not to do the first and third Wednesdays because that's planning board at the same time. If we need to, I think that would be decided at the October, if we need to have a quick meeting in between.
Okay.
Okay, and I guess Jennifer was saying goodbye. I saw her hand up and I thought she was gonna say something, but she's gone. I guess she was just waving, she was leaving. Okay, anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
roll call, Josh?
Gina,
Yes?
Carlton,
Hey,
Bill,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved. The meeting is adjourned.
thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
everybody.
bye.
Thank you, Josh.